in Afghanistan was because terrorists were going into Russia. They were right to be there.
The Soviets were right to be in Afghanistan. You were in the middle of your distinguished military career at the time. Was that the view of the U.S. military and the U.S. government, that the Soviets were right to be in Afghanistan?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think this is a very unique interpretation of the history of the Soviet Union and Afghanistan and the United States. The Soviets weren't there because of terrorists. They were there because they wanted to dominate Afghanistan, so they just invaded. And we were there helping the Mujahideen to get rid of them. So to say that it was, or to suggest it was appropriate for the Russians to be there is, like I say, a very unique interpretation of history.
You think the president knows his history?
I don't know. I don't know what history course he took, but that's, to me, that's not what happened.
All right, Director James Clapper, always a pleasure to have you with us. Happy New Year to you and your family, sir.
And the same, John, to you and yours.
Thanks so much. All right, Republicans this morning starting to show some cracks as the government shutdown hits the week 2 mark.
We're trying to open up government. We're giving them a mature path to do so.
Without a wall, you cannot have border security. It won't work.
Cory Gardner's already coming forward. There's other Republican senators in a similar fashion, so you're going to see pressure build.
The wall has always been a con for Donald Trump's credulous, rude, 10-toothed base. It has always been a lie.
And we should all be very serious about this. President Trump is doing the right thing.
Democrats, they are actually going to start digging in. He's not used to having any oversight.
Democrats' agenda is to come after him, to destroy him, and anyone around him. They want to score political points.
This is New Day with Allison Camerata and John Berman.
Good morning and welcome to your New Day. It is Friday, January 4th, 8 o'clock in the East. It is now day 14 of the government shutdown, and there are signs maybe the winds could be shifting. Perhaps. 2 Republicans in the Senate. Did I hedge that enough? Maybe, perhaps, could be. But there are signs. Maybe. 2 Senate Republicans are breaking from President Trump. They say that they want to reopen the government, even if it's without funding for the border wall. So that is significant beyond just perhaps. And it comes after the new Democratic-controlled House passed a plan to fund and reopen the government, a plan that, as of now, doesn't seem to be going anywhere in the Senate because the president will not support it.
But there are also signs that both sides are dug in. In just hours, President Trump will again meet with congressional leaders in the Situation Room to try to discuss ways to break this impasse. However, both sides seem to be sticking right where they have been for the past 14 days. Vice President Mike Pence insists, quote, no wall, no deal, end quote, while the new Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, says we're not doing a wall. So what happens with this game of chicken? It all comes as the Trump administration faces oversight from House Democrats who have introduced a bill to protect Special Counsel Robert Mueller and his investigation.
So joining us now is New York Democratic Congressman Jerry Nadler, the new chair of the House Judiciary Committee, who introduced that measure Allison just spoke of moments ago to protect Robert Mueller. Mr. Chairman, why is that necessary today, and why is it necessary to introduce it, given the fact that you know the Senate will never pass it and the president certainly will never sign it?
Well, it's necessary to introduce the bill to show our determination that we must protect the Mueller investigation from Republican attempts to interfere with it, from White House attempts to interfere with it. The new Democratic majority will now put an end to the Republican attempts to sabotage and undermine the Mueller investigation. There'll be real consequences at this point from any further such attempts. We do expect that when Mueller issues his report, the report will go to the Judiciary Committee, to the House Judiciary Committee, because that's our charge, and we will make sure it is public. We'll subpoena, if there's any problem, we'll subpoena it if necessary, but we will get that, the Judiciary Committee will get that report and make sure the American people knows what's in it. With that said, we're not going to wait for the Mueller report. There's plenty for the Judiciary Committee to look into right now. Specifically, the attempts to to have a massive fraud on the American people in terms of rigging an American presidential election and undermining the integrity of that election. And we have to look into that, whether it's by hush payments or by collusion with Russians or by any other means. We have to look into that.
Well, specifically, sorry, there's a number of things I want to ask you there.
And we have to look into the continuing obstructions of justice.
You just put in listed a whole menu of things that you want your committee to look into, but very specifically, what will you investigate? Are you talking about the Russian hacks or the Russian attacks on the election? Are you talking about the suggestion or the investigation into whether or not the Trump campaign colluded? Specifically, what are you talking about?
All of that is part of it. I mean, we know about the Russian hacks. There's nothing. Right. There's very little to investigate there. But yeah, the Trump campaign's participation in that plot by the Russians. The obstruction, the interference with the Justice Department in its investigation, which is why we have to have Whitaker come before us.
So let me talk about Matt Whitaker, and then I have a follow-up question on that. Matt Whitaker, who's the acting Attorney General, we just learned met with former Attorney General Ed Meese and told the former Attorney General that there is still an investigation going on into the Clinton Foundation and activities surrounding Hillary Clinton during the campaign. The acting Attorney General told a former Attorney General, briefed him about an ongoing investigation. Do you have concerns about that?
Well, I don't know anything about that, but I'm not aware of any such investigation, but or if they're trying to revive dormant investigations or conclude an investigation. But yeah, I would have concerns about telling people about that, about ongoing investigations. I have concerns about improper communications right now between the White House and the Department of Justice, in which the White House is attempting to squelch investigations and to interfere with justice. And that to look into those questions are why we must have Whitaker in front of the Judiciary Committee. As you know, he's agreed to appear, but they seem to be dragging their feet on appropriate dates. But if we have to, we'll subpoena him.
If you have to, you will subpoena him. How long will you wait? How long will you wait?
I don't know that. We'll see that. Not too long.
Have you seen any sign yet that the acting Attorney General has interfered in any way in the Mueller investigation?
Well, we haven't seen signs yet that he personally has. We've certainly seen signs that the Trump administration has. Every time the president says that the Mueller investigation is a witch hunt, every time he demands specific things, that they not look into this, that they draw red lines, that's an obstruction of justice. That's an interference into an ongoing criminal investigation.
So, newly elected Representative Rashida Tlaib, yesterday she wrote an op-ed calling for the impeachment of President Trump. That's what she wrote. Then last night, she